Lee and Susan Bush. My family came to Athens in 1945 and joined First Baptist Church. And so we're a multi-generation family of this church. My grandparents, my parents, Susan and myself, and our children and now grandchildren are members of the church here.
All these years that we've been here, since we came as newly married from after having met at Baylor, we have just had the most wonderful experience in our church. We have been profoundly blessed spiritually in so many ways. We've raised our children here, our twin sons Ted and Todd initially, and then later on, to our surprise, God led us to adopt two girls, two sisters, from an orphanage we met in St. Petersburg, Russia. And they came when they were 8 and 10, and we could not have asked for a more joyful welcome for them. They were so scared when they came to our church and came to the academy to go to school. They did not speak English. But what happened was all the children and the workers in church and the academy spoke the language of love. We are so grateful for all the experiences we've had where children have learned about the unconditional love of Jesus and have come to know Him personally. And that's what we hope for all the young families that come here, that they will have that kind of experience in years to come like we have.
I'm Kenneth McGee and my wife Reba. We've been members since 1963. We came from the Air Force back here and joined this church, and Reba can expound on our kids.
We raised our two children here. As a matter of fact, we chose this church because of its nursery and the leader there in the nursery department, Miss Ruby, and then Alicia was born soon after we were here. And then our daughter and her husband have moved back here after they got into their career, and they've raised their 3 children here. One of the most touching experiences that we've had with this church regarding our children has been with our oldest grandchild, Alicia's oldest child, Sydney, who had an illness that was diagnosed and recognized before she was born. They lived in the Dallas area at the time, but we asked our church here to pray for her, and they did, and just prayed her through a long illness, and the results were really good. And she still has letters written to her from this church, signed by some older church members on Wednesday night prayer meeting. And so it's just been a real blessed and touching experience.
You know, Kenneth, we were talking a while ago about some of the projects that have been in our church history. I think the one that first comes to mind is the building of our sanctuary that we worship in now. That was built about the time I finished high school, and we dedicated actually in January of 1961. So it's been 50 years ago that building was dedicated. And I think about the many times of worship there, and the music and preaching, and how God's Word's been brought to us through that building. And you know, we think in terms of it's just a building, but my goodness, when we think about the people who have come to know Christ in that facility, it's pretty amazing.
Well, Lee, the Rock used to be the Family Lab Center. It used to be the Safeway building.
Safeway store, I remember that.
So, you know, the church purchased that and converted it, and gosh, it's been not only great for our youth and members here, but also for the community. We've done so many things. We had the old houses, and they were old, out in front of the church and to the back of the church where the core building is. That now we went from the Safeway Family Lab Center, Rock, well, before the Rock, to the children's building.
Right.
And that was a big thing where we could put classrooms for all the children now. The Cool and Green Initiative is a 3-year program, and it's not going to be as exciting as building a building, but it's going to be just as important as building a building.
Absolutely.
It's going to take $1,250,000 to do this project over a 3-year period. You
know, Kenneth, you and I have talked a number of times about, you know, how this breaks down and these important projects that we want to do. One of the things we certainly want to do is to fulfill our responsibility to the note payments that we already have. And that's going to take about $355,000 during the next 36 months. And then, of course, the big part of this project, the Cool and Green Initiative, is to take care of the air conditioning needs of our church. We've talked about how much it's going to cost and when can we do it, and I'm reminded of my friend Irv Jenkins saying that he was stewing about the cost of a new air conditioner. He knew any day he was going to have to do it at his home until the day he walked in and the air conditioner was not working. And that day, he quit worrying about the price of the air conditioner, but just when could it be fixed. And so we don't want the church to be in position of being without air conditioning, but instead to go ahead and be proactive and start replacing the air conditioner that we have. That's going to take about $750,000 to do that. Then the other thing that we've talked about, and how there's so many little things that need to be done around the church, projects that we put off, it's time to do, and all of those projects are important, and they need to be done, and it's going to take about $145,000 to do that. So you add those numbers up, and we're at the $1,250,000 that you talked about, and it's really time for us to step up as a church and do what we need to do to make that happen.
You know, but it's not the facilities that's the most important thing. It's what our children have learned and our youth have learned. A closer relationship with Christ where Jesus is their forever friend, and they've learned about His love, and that's what's so exciting on Sunday morning when you see the children come in and you know they're learning more about Him, and because that's going to affect the rest of their lives.